Heyo, what up, game theorists? I hope you guys enjoyed the last week's episode, the Batman one. I re-listened to it and I was laughing during it. It's pretty funny. I guess some of the analysis of that Batman one was on the Cape Crusaders, though. So, yeah, it wasn't quite the full analysis I expected. But that's all right. That's all right. What was said was pretty good.
Yes.
It's funny that how our format has changed too. Where we used to just like go through all the games, all the Batman games. And that wasn't as entertaining as how we do it now, which is just kind of like a crapshoot.
Yeah, just talk.
The old crapshoot approach.
The old shotgun.
Theory niner. Yeah. So, yeah, good to see you, man. How's your week been? You're almost
pretty
done.
good. Yeah, we got one more week of classes and then finals. And then it's the epic gaming summer.
Wow. Yeah, that sounds fun. Yeah, one way or the other, I'm going to be playing some games as well. So whether I had to sign a non-disclosure about the runner, so I won't be talking about that. But one way or the other, however that goes, I'll be doing something fun this summer, either playing games with you or
playing games
across the country. Yeah.
Yes, we might just turn the podcast into a fan podcast where I just weigh in with myself. I'm like, man, what do you think is going to happen next? I'm really rooting for that Jeremiah. He seems like he's a real up-and-comer.
Non-biased. Totally non-biased.
Non-biased, for sure. Like The Talking Dead, but way sadder because it's just me.
Yeah, I know, it's like this crappy little show. It's not like quadrillions of people. But yeah, the Batman's going to be my boss. How many people can say that if it happens?
Jeremy Irons can.
Ooh, yeah. Well, he can say a lot of other cool things, but
yeah. Well, hashtag good luck.
You started that hashtag without knowing where it was going. Well, hashtag.
I feel like hashtags don't require a lot of forethought.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hashtag word vomit.
I don't even think people even like spell check those things because you'll see things misspelled. I'm like, if you click this, it goes nowhere. You realize that, right?
Oh my gosh, speaking of spell checking, I was on Facebook and one of the stories that was trending was Nevada recounts and gives 2 more delegates to Hillary, blah, 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 same old. But I was like, I like to read the comments sometimes just to see if I'm crazy or if I'm the only person that's upset by these things.
Yeah.
And I was reading it, and that's when I was like, you guys need to shut up, you Bernie zombies. Hillary is a great leaser. It's like, a great leaser?
A great lizard?
Yeah. It's like, if you're being paid, because, like, it's public knowledge now that her campaign is paying millions of dollars to have people troll these Facebook things. Yeah. But it's like, if you're being paid, like, show some goddamn pride in your work and spell check your comments. Goddamn.
Leaser.
You're such a great leaser.
Money buys such good quality things. But yeah, so this time we're going to be talking about something that kind of hit me as I've been playing Tomb Raider. I've been playing this brand new game. Maybe you've heard of it. Just now came out. Rise of the Tomb Raider.
Oh, yeah. You should recommend it to me, and I'll play it immediately upon your recommendation.
Yes. No, it's not a brand new game. It's been sitting in my library forever, and I keep looking at it. I'm like, man, I bet I really like that game, but I'm super busy. But now...
Now it's a glorious era. What pushed you over the edge? Just finishing your dissertation?
Yeah, like finishing the first draft. I turned it in. I had some other things I needed to do, licensure, sit for the EPP type stuff, and I finished all that, and I was like, well, hell, I got nothing to do. So started that up.
So what do you think?
Well, it's awesome, obviously. Dude, that's like one of my all-time favorite games. That, and I think it's possible to have a crush on the girl. I like her. I'm like, really? This Lara Croft girl's amazing.
I know. I'm super in love with her. And we talked about this on our Tomb Raider episode. I was not a fan of Lara Croft.
Nope.
I was like, all right, Angelina Jolie, we get it. You can kung fu flip in the air and shoot everyone in the head. It's super awesome.
But it has
this Lara Croft, like, woman versus wild, like, survival, like, fighting a bear with, like, weird mushrooms poisoned on your arrow and just hope that you can win. It's so cool. Love it.
Yeah. So I get it. There was I remember talking to a couple people who were gamers who were girls, and they were saying they had a crush on Nathan Drake. You know, the main dude. He's a family member. Uncharted 4, Uncharted 3 type series, and I was like, that's weird. You can't that's a video game. It seems pretty weird. But then I'm like, oh wait, it's just a simulation of real life according to our brains. So yeah, okay, I could see that.
Oh yeah, no, I've had crushes on female video game characters since like the 8-bit era. I was like, oh man, Peach. When I finally find the princess, when I get to that castle, it's gonna be great. Well, you've really built her up. All these toads, all this disappointment I've had.
It could be the personality because she really doesn't interact much except telling you it's in another castle. So I'm guessing you're just hot for her looks.
I think maybe I'm just hot for being rejected because like 7 castles in a row of like getting turned down.
Another castle. Just how to do it.
Oh yeah, just dangle that carrot right in front of my face. That green light as I Gatsby gaze across the lake. I'm gonna get that Peach someday.
Oh man, that's probably the only time that parallel's been made towards Peach. Green light.
It really should be more often. But no, I remember like more realistically, I had a huge crush on Aeris before. Spoiler alert, that didn't end well. Marley from Chrono Trigger, Luna. Remember Luna's Silver Star story?
Yeah.
Complete? I loved Luna. She was
awesome.
Blue hair. That's where I discovered I like blue nets.
There you go. Now you know. Blue nets. Wow.
But yeah, it's a common problem. But no, Lara Croft actually feels like a fleshed out character, and I think that's part of why it's pretty easy to fall in love with her.
Exactly. It's like a real person with real struggles, so it's pretty cool. And I was like, oh man, you're doing it. Way to go. You know, like whenever she like overcomes all these struggles. And then
how's Amy feel about your? I know she's kind of the jealous type.
I don't know, man. I haven't asked her. This is the first time talking about it. So
when she's listening to this episode, like she might file the papers for divorce. That's going to be it.
Yeah. So I'm guessing that you're going to just take that quote and put it on loop, then, so you and I can get man married.
I'm telling you, man. There's tax breaks and it's legal now.
Hey, yeah, it's true.
Platonic man marriage.
No, it's funny. We were talking one time, and I was like, no, that guy, because I'm historically really bad at like determining what guys are good looking. I'm like, oh, that guy, he seems like a good looking dude. And then girls are always like, what? No, what's wrong with you? But one time I nailed it. I was like, oh, this guy, he seems like pretty good looking dude.
It was
like,
me, right?
Of course. And Amy's like, yeah, but I thought guys couldn't tell. I was like, oh yeah, I normally can. I guess I got it right, you know. And then she's like, you turning gay on me? I was like, Amy, you'd know I'd leave you right away for David. That was an option.
That would have already happened.
Yeah.
Long before you finished turning. Like right when you hit Bike Curious, you'd be out.
Yeah. Just this little spike of like, yeah.
Maybe. Let's give it a shot.
Just all in, yeah. But anyway.
So, Tomb Raider. So you were playing it. You're enjoying it. How far are you into it?
Oh, this game's so fun. It's just... And one of the things in particular I want to talk about has to do with this topic, but in general, I like it, dude. I'm at there's all these like little optional side temples, you know, that are fun. And I just did
Oh, I love like the little tombs that you raid.
Yeah, you raid these tombs. Yeah. And it's funny because one time in the game so far, she mentioned an actual archaeological point of view. She'll say things in like no language and stuff, you know, like I'm imagining archaeologists do, but one time she's like, oh, such destruction in this temple. And I was like, see, that's what you should be concerned about. Like
you're just stop blowing things up.
Shitting all over these temples. And like,
I know. She really has an Indiana Jones approach to archaeology.
Yeah, but hey, we like it. That's the point. Like people loved Indiana Jones.
Right.
So,
and this is a weird thing to love about that game, but I really loved being able to learn ancient languages and get better at them. I was like, oh yeah, my Greek just got better. Like,
me too.
The first time in a game I've ever shouted that, like, oh, I just leveled up my ancient Greek.
Yeah, exactly. I'm owning this Russian. Owning it.
Owning it.
It's really fun. It's and there's like reasons to the side quests. You can unlock things early and stuff. It's pretty cool. Yeah. You know, little coins that you can get.
I tend to 100% games anyway, but this game and the one before it made me actually feel like I wasn't wasting my time 100%ing it because it gives you tangible benefits every time you find something.
Yeah. And I just love murdering people with arrows. It's really fun.
Oh yeah, arrow is the best weapon.
I just unlocked the compound bow. Oh, so
super good.
I love this thing. But yeah, the puzzles are just hard enough where if you think about it, it's not like Talos Principle where there's portions where I just straight up had to look it up. I was like, I don't fucking know. I've been sitting here 45 minutes on the same damn puzzle. I'm getting sick of this shit and I just Google it. This one is like, you know, you'll be legitimately stumped a couple times. You'll be like, I think I need to. Oh, okay. And it makes sense, like physics puzzles and stuff. Like you have to knock down this truck by pulling this like cart back and, you know, and you could probably get it just by trying a bunch of different things. But by thinking it out, it's fun. It feels rewarding.
Yeah. No, it is. It's a game that works on a lot of levels because there's the puzzles, there's the graphics. It feels like a movie, the way it's paced, the way the voice acting is,
Yeah,
the flashbacks and going back and forth with the narrative.
and hair.
The hair, oh, the hair.
It's me and Amy have talked about that a couple times because there's a button you can click that says like real hair or something like
Yeah.
that, and it draws
Like-
each strand individually.
Oh yeah, it taxes the hell out of your system, but it's worth it.
Yeah, during cinema scenes where she's running, like I'll experience lag, but I'm like, worth. Check out that real hair.
You got that real hair.
It's so real.
So real.
Uh,
Yeah. It's and it work there's mindless parts where I can just put an audiobook in and explore, which I love doing in
Yep.
games. And then there's really in-depth parts where you'll just mute whatever you're doing and give
Yep.
it full attention. So it's got like just the way it's paced, both from a narrative point of view, like the way the story moves, and from a gameplay point of view, the way there's like downtime, there's go hunting, there's exploring time, then there's like get shit done time. Like it's just
yeah.
a really smartly designed game.
And then you get those like what are they called? Legendary animals that pop up, and you're like, oh, like
Yeah.
all these those little shinies that catch your eye. That's really important for humans. For our pleasure center, we're just wired for that. So whenever you see the literal shinies that are the coin caches, or you see like on your thing, it's like, oh, legendary animals nearby. You're like, oh, and then you start this little side mission where you're kind of hunting it down, trying not to spook it and kill it. It's yeah, that's really rewarding. But here's the thing that I've been thinking about this game. It's been really good about breaking certain expectations. There's some that are obviously there, but I've noticed a change between, you remember Assassin's Creed 1, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was really this like parkour kind of scrambly game, and it was brand new for that, having that, right?
Right.
Like-
It was the first time you could just like interact with the environment and climb on everything.
Yeah, you got Prince of Persia, which is clearly just like, oh, I'm going to do a bunch of flips, but here's the only way to go, right?
Right.
You clearly, you do a bunch of stuff, but it's getting you, it's just a fancy way to move you forward in the level.
Yeah, there's one
Like you-
path you have to use.
Exactly. Yeah, it's not like you're exploring. You're trying to figure out the way to get across, right?
Mhm.
But Assassin's Creed was an open world kind of parkour simulator, and people lost their fucking shit. So did I. I was just like, this is fun, dude. I feel so like I'm just jumping around on things. Sky's the limit. It was rewarding just to climb buildings, just to get up there and look from the view.
Yeah, and we've said
But-
this before. Movement in a game is so underrated and so often unappreciated that we tend to only notice it when it's gone now. But
Yeah.
really, good movement makes the game so much more fun. Like there was a kid in one of my classes who was like talking shit about Overwatch. He played the beta and he's just like, "Oh no, there's no customization, so it's just dumb. It's just Team Fortress 3." And I was like, "Really?" And he's like, "Yeah, there's no customization. I don't like it." I'm like, "What do you mean there's no customization?" And I realized what he was talking about was he plays Counter-Strike and he likes the different loadouts of your guns and your body
Uh-huh.
armors and your smoke grenades. And I was like, okay, yeah, there's no customization on the level of weapons, but wouldn't you say there's more customization in that there's 30 different characters that all have different skill sets? Like it's like a bigger picture customization. Like you can say, oh, I want to be able to fly and shoot grenades now, and now I want to be able to climb walls like a ninja. You can do that. That's way more options than, do I have a gun that fires slightly faster but is less accurate?
Yeah. Yeah. And this, like how you get to change her clothes. I there's something funny about it where I won't put her in a Himley. Like she's got an outfit where she's got like an Arctic jacket, another one that's an Arctic jacket, but it's more like camouflage. She's got like the classic leather jacket that she's wearing, kind of some of the flashback scenes, that kind of thing. But I'm like, no, that's not practical. And then she has a Himley, and I'm like, I can't put her in that. She's always freezing because like she complains
She
a
does.
lot.
She
It's
does.
cold.
When, I was the same way. Like there's different. You probably haven't gotten far enough yet, but there's different environments that you get to, right? So there's warmer places.
Uh-huh.
There's like a geothermal kind of area where it's a little bit warmer, and I would do the same thing. Like it was this whole dress up game where I was like, oh, she's so cold though. Look at her shivering. And I was like, put her in a big parka, put her in a huge coat.
So-
And then later on, I'm like, all right, you can dress more summery now, Laura. You've earned it.
Yeah. You don't want to put in that big old jacket. She'll be sweating. No, that's part of, okay, that's one of the things I noticed I thought was brilliant. And okay, so in general, what people have started to realize, this game designers, that the less that's on a HUD, the better.
Mm-hmm.
Heads up display, like if you're playing a game and you've got an ammo indicator in the bottom right, that's one thing. Then you've got your life on the left, that's another thing. Then let's say you've got a compass at the top, that's another thing. Think of like Skyrim, right?
Right.
Actually, Skyrim did pretty well with this, but some of the other like first-person type games, like Metroid, actually had a pretty cool version of this because she had an actual visor, and I
yeah,
thought
they
that
actually
was
incorporate that into the gameplay, so it felt.
Yeah.
It actually was the only time the HUD feels immersive. Like you felt more like Samus by having the HUD,
yeah,
because you could sometimes when there's flashes of light, you could see her face like reflected in the glass.
she's blinking. Oh, that's so
Yeah.
cool. And
It
then
was really immersive. It was like a good way to subvert the HUD because usually it does take you out of it.
Oh yeah, and when she takes off the mask, I don't remember which game this is, but she takes off her helmet for a minute. It's like during a cutscene, and I remember thinking, "Whoa, I feel so exposed." Like I
Right.
felt without your HUD, I was like, "Oh my god, anything could happen." Put it back on, Sam's. What are you doing?
Yeah, what if you need to scan something for your database? You won't be able to.
I love that.
That's where my
scan,
that's where
scan
my
simulator. That's what that game is. Scan simulator.
every game is that for me.
No, but so that's one way to immerse you in your environment, right? Which is pretty rad. But this game it does, it's got some of that as well. But or does it? Yeah, I think it's got your ammo at the bottom right, but your life isn't. They've already figured out that just putting blood on the edge of the screen shows you that you're hurt, or it turns black and white in this game when you're
Just
really
having her breathe or limp, breathe heavily or limp. You're like, oh, I'm hurt.
Oh yeah, I've had some horrible moments where I'm running and I'm like, oh god, God. And she's like pulling herself on the ground, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm gonna die. But that part's fun. But another thing that this game is starting to do brilliantly, if you contrast, okay, first of all, I'll say the thing that you mentioned where she says she's cold a lot,
Mm-hmm.
and she'll be like, oh, cold. Or another time, when she gets out of the water, she wrings out her hair, and I'm like, oh, I see girls do that all the time. Yeah, okay, that would be something that you would do. I mean, I would think. I never had long hair, but it's just practical. And then she'll pull out a Kim stick or a Kim light, or what do civilians call them?
Glow stick.
Glow stick. Okay, yeah. Just a glow stick, and then she'll hook it on her belt when she's not using it. But a lot of those things are pretty cool. But one of the things
when
is
she goes through a tight tunnel and goes to the side, sideways and scoots through it, and then cobwebs out of her hair when she comes out on the other end of it.
Yeah, exactly. And one thing in particular that's functional rather than just aesthetic is whenever you get close to a campfire, she'll shiver.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of beckons you to walk to the campfire and check it out, right? Like if you haven't played the past games, or if you have, you already know that that's a camp that you can upgrade your stuff. But if you don't, you're just like, oh, why is she saying she's shivering? Oh, look, there's a fire over there. You get close to it, and then it offers you the menu.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool, and that's one of those functional things. It's not like being, hey, listen, or
you just check out that campfire over there. You can go upgrade your weapons and refill your health.
You're shivering. You probably need some more warmth. That's just obnoxious. Or the heads-up display where it points an arrow at it. It's like, look at that over there. It's a fire. It shows a fire symbol on your screen. That's an evolution, but I don't think it's the end game. I think what's happening now is the end game where she shivers and you're like, what's going on? Or you see a little bit of smoke or something and she'll notice the smoke, and I'm like, oh, okay, this is the kind of thing that would be good. Now, this game doesn't fully have this. It still says things like, oh, hey, there's a quest nearby. A local needs some help or whatever. Right. But you're seeing this evolution. And number two is, on Assassin's Creed is really guilty of this. Whenever you're walking up to a building, you can already see how to get up it, right?
Yeah, there's going to be jutting bricks that you're like, oh, I have to grab those.
Yeah, in Assassin's Creed 3, or some of the later ones at least, they kind of played that a little bit less. You're like, oh, I wonder if I could grab that window. Maybe I can, maybe I can't. Not the sill, but the actual window. Mm-hmm. And you get to kind of really explore and determine what you can grab a hold of. And this game still has white ledges and straight things to show you where to go, which I think is important, kind of, maybe, at least in this generation, to train people on how to think.
Right.
But it's starting to get away from it. And it does things where it looks like it's a place you can go, but you can't. Like, you jump and there's a part where it looks like the place where you stick your little pickaxes in, Mm-hmm. And I jumped up there and I pushed the pickaxe button, the X button, and she swings her pickaxe there, but then just slips and falls. And I was like, what the? And I thought maybe I didn't hit the button correctly, but then you fall down and it enters a whole new scene. And it does a lot of that, playing with your expectations. You'll be walking on a thin kind of wooden place, and it'll start breaking and falling, and then instantly you'll realize, oh crap, I got to jump onto something. And you're like, I hope that thing's a thing, and you jump and you grab it, and you're like, whoa. And it gives you that real thrill that you don't get in Assassin's Creed. If you're falling, you're like, oh, I hope I make it to that white ledge there. Oh, I didn't. Right. Oh well, next time. But it's not a sense of thrill.
Yeah, in that opening flashback mission where you're raiding your first tomb of the game, when the helicopter's shooting at you and you're running on those mesas and those bluffs, and one of the rock formations you're on starts to fall. I remember having this thought holy shit, they just altered the environment of the game forever. I can't go back to that point anymore.
Yeah.
And really made me realize it felt like a living world, right? Because mostly, in my completionist mind, I look at video games as a map that I can backtrack and explore. But you can't always do that here because things change, and sometimes you can't go back the way you came.
Oh man, and that on the run, it's almost like Sonic kind of touched this part of us. We like to be able to run and think on the fly. It's so whenever I do this, I like doing trail running. It's where you run out on trails, and one of the fun things is because
that would make sense.
Yeah, as you go down
trail running, I was like, what is that? It's where you run out on trails.
Yeah, yeah, like in real life, not like a game term. But and when you're running, you'll see like these rocks and roots, and you have to
Uh,
pick your footsteps on the fly. So you're constantly problem solving quickly, right?
right, and I would
Um,
suspect that we probably evolved to find some pleasure in that because that would have been a useful skill for our hunter-gatherer ancestors.
maybe as a functional thing, but also just as a like a real small. Anytime we solve a problem successfully, it does pop off in our interior, not interior, sorry, the nucleus accumbens, or one of the pathways leading into that, and which is your reward center, right? You're like, oh,
Mhm.
I did that thing and it worked, yay! It's a
Yeah,
little yay, right? And so in this game, it simulates that. There's so many times where you're running and something's on fire, or you're getting shot at, or something's happening, and your environment is constantly changing in front of you. You can't just like in Sonic, you can look out in front of you and be like, okay, I'm gonna run and jump here, and I'm gonna jump there, that kind of thing.
hmm
But except when it doesn't, and then that sucks. But in this, it's like this. You think you know where you're gonna go. You're like, okay, I'm gonna jump over these three ice things, and oh my god, he just shot it down, and oh now I'm falling, and oh wait, if I at the end of the slide I need to jump, and then use my pickaxe. It's this constant
right.
like
Yeah.
it really does add that real emotional stress to it.
Yeah, like the very beginning during the avalanche, it was just one nonstop like thing after another of like avoiding the snow as it's falling and just you're on unstable ground, everything's collapsing, you're jumping, you're just flailing your arms, hoping there'll be something to catch.
Yeah,
And when there is, there's that sense of relief, like oh god, good, but you can't stop, so you have to keep moving. So it's this constant like reward, 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 risk, reward, like back and forth.
yeah, those scenes are really fun. And they did those sort of things in like Call of Duty, but it wasn't quite. It wasn't like this. It wasn't like a scrambling parkour kind of thing. It was more of like a oh shit, I need to get out and I'm being shot at kind of thing and dying. Those kind of games. But this one's really fun because of that kind of scrambling. I noticed that it was cool whenever I stopped after one of these sequences and I turned around and my two kids were standing there, and I guess I had been like vocalizing the whole time. I was like, "Whoa, what are you guys doing here?" And they're like, "Oh, you were saying cuss words." I was like, "Oh, okay," because I was like, "Oh shit, oh fuck, fuck, fuck." Oh my god, am I gonna make it? Am I gonna make it? Oh my god, I made it! And like, I noticed myself making those vocalizations, right? Like, on accident, partly because of that. And that's one of the aspects I think this game does really well. That I hope is an evolution in the series of video games in general, if not just the franchise.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that's one of those. I've never. I've read a lot of reviews of Tomb Raider because I'm trying to put my finger on why I like the reboot so much better than the originals, and I wonder if that's part of it that people don't really talk about this much, but the way the environment affects gameplay, it's like movement, right? It's one of those understated things that go on in the background that you don't really notice until you put your finger on it.
Yeah,
But it was true because I was playing last night. I was playing the new StarCraft missions, the Nova missions. You played
yeah,
those?
yeah,
So the first one has you escaping from a facility, right, like a science facility,
yeah.
and you're being all stealthy because you're a ghost and you're a special operative. So I'm sneaking through it, and I see that it's your classic video game stealth mission where you have like a clear line of sight and people trying to, and I'm kind of over that. I wish we would get away from this whole like cone of vision thing. Like it's really not that realistic. Like my sight extends in this cone and this cone only. There are no peripherals.
Yeah.
But anyway, so you're going through that, and I see this thing, and I'm like, oh, I'll just go around here. And there was some like rubble on the ground, like some science equipment or something. And I was like, oh, I'll just click over. And I was like, oh wait, no, I can't. And then it really took me out of it because I remembered thinking, oh no, that's just window dressing. That's actually, as far as the game's concerned, that's a wall. It just
Right.
looks like I can scramble over it. And then the whole map just became a series of tunnels to me instead of like a science facility. It was just tunnels, lines and empty spaces, right? Like it just really kind of became a simplified version. And so even a modern game like that just came out like a month ago, that mission pack, they still are clinging to these old ideas of well, the environment's just background window dressing, don't worry about it. But a game like Tomb Raider is actually bringing the background into the gameplay, and that's a really exciting thing that we should explore more, I think.
Definitely. Yeah, I definitely agree. And I think that game, that's a really good example because I played the Nova missions, and I'm one of these people that like stops and just looks around a lot in
Mhm.
games. I like, I don't know, I'm very impressed by visual stuff, I guess. So I'll just, in the middle of games, I talked about on the Castlevania episode, I talk about it all the time. In these games, I'll just stop and like look around. I'm like, wow, dude, this is someone's like, someone's baby. Someone made
Yeah.
this, and
Yeah, I found
loving
myself
the
doing that on
crafting.
Xenoblade all the time, just stopping and looking around. I'm like, this is really pretty. Like someone designed this.
Oh yeah, okay, so I could sing the praises of this Tomb Raider series forever. I love it. It's exactly a genre that I love. This adventure RPG thing, and it's also I like the characters well written, and I like a lot of things about it. But I gotta say, there's something else that came to mind. Is there's sometimes whenever there was a rock outcropping like somewhere, because there's a lot of naturalistic things, and I was like, I wonder if I can grab that, and I already knew I couldn't because the ledge wasn't white, and I was like, I jump up there and it wouldn't grab, or sometimes you can grab it, but typically not, and I'm like, see, that kind of takes you out a little bit. And the other part is the what's it called, survival instinct. You click on the right thumb pad, click it down, the R3 button.
Then you can notice things.
You can notice things, which is really cool. But now it's cool because it's like, oh, now I can see that there's an animal over there or this. But now I find myself, it's kind of like in Dragon Age, where I'm clicking it every time it's up, pretty much, to see if there's plants. And so it's almost one of these mechanisms that is now hurting itself because of its
utility
functionality. Yeah, and I think. And one of the fun things is I've stopped clicking that button. That's what I've done in the last little bit. First of all, I'm full on resources, so I can afford to. But I was like, no, I want to experience this game as a person in the game would, like Lara Croft, how she would do this. So I'll just like look around, and I think I'm probably missing more stuff. But on the other hand, it's more fun to like go, I think that's ice I can maybe pick onto, and then I jump over there, and even if I die, I'm like, oh dang, I didn't. Something little like that could kill Lara. That's crazy. And then redo it and know that I can't that time. But
can I make a suggestion?
Yeah.
Get the DLC for the survival mode. Like there's a new mode that just came out where it's kind of a roguelike. It just drops Lara in the wilderness. It takes out all the gamey portions and just says survive, and you have to just get as far as you can to find a shelter, build that shelter, and kind of expand out. So every time you're looking for resources, but you don't want to go too far because you can freeze to death. So you come back, venture out, come back, venture out, find a new campsite, and kind of continue your ever-expanding circles of exploration that way as you slowly go up the tech tree. It sounds like that's the way you're playing the game. It's got permadeath. It's got it's just like a realistic Lara versus wilderness scenario. It takes out all the weird, like kind of supernatural things and like soldiers and stuff, and it's just you, a bunch of animals, and the wild, and you see how far you can explore while you're finding relics and stuff in the snow.
That sounds fun. I do like the human portions, but some of the biggest scares I've had have been natural things. Like you probably had this too, because it seems like it's almost rigged to do this. There's like portions where you'll see these dead animals, right, and then wolves will be feeding on them, because it's like a real life ecosystem in there. You'll see a wolf take down a deer and they'll fight, or a bear will fight a wolf or something, in the background. That's nothing new. That happens in a lot of games. So this one I saw, so sometimes you'll see these like deer that have been eaten, but you can still skin them. You're like, I'm gonna sneak up there and do that. And I did that with this one, and this fucking leopard came out and scared the shit out of me. I didn't see it until it hit me in the back, and then I literally went, like in my room by myself, and I jumped and I turned around, and I had my bow out, so I'm like, feebly slapping like them with shitty arrows, and I'm like switching to my guns, fumbling through them as he's like, oh man, it was terrifying. That leopard, Jesus. But
yeah, I like when the bad guys, going back to our environmental theme, when the bad guys kind of blend in with the environment, like they use it against you. Like in Xenoblade I was playing yesterday, there are these creatures they're like giant rock turtles, but their backs are just covered in moss and stones and like plant life and stuff. And so when they're sleeping, they kind of bury themselves in the ground, so just their backs are sticking out. And I didn't know that they were a thing, so I was just wandering through the world, just finding paths as I do, just exploring the map, and all of a sudden this like huge turtle thing just comes out of the ground, like I was almost stepping on it, and it attacks me, and I'm like, oh god, like it scared the pants off me because I didn't know they existed. And so now whenever I see like a weird rocky outcropping, I do a double take and go, wait, are you a weird beast that looks like a plant? So just the way that because we're used to players using the environment a lot, like the Batman series kind of trained us like, hey, I can put explosive gel on that thing and blow it up on somebody. I can hide on this gargoyle and drop down on somebody. It kind of taught us how to use the environment to help us. But now I'm seeing more games where the bad guys are using the environment against you, and that's pretty fun as well.
Yeah, that's really the next evolution that I'm really excited about. One thing too is, okay, so we're talking about the environment. Like, so first of all, I really want to praise it and say, like, it shocks you a lot. Like, you'll jump up and grab something, and then it'll break from beneath you, and you're like, "What's the?" And then you have these real moments that the whole point of playing the game, not a whole point, but some people play games specifically for this feeling of like being able to experience the emotion with the character. So if the character's adrenalized and want to take someone down, or if the character's angry, you're angry. If the character's terrified, you're terrified. And this really helps close that gap on the disparity between like, oh, look, Laura's in trouble, whatever. It's like, because you get scared too. You're like, you're jumping and the camera will show how far down, and then it'll shatter, and you're like, what the? And then you have, as you're falling, the camera looks down, and you're like, oh, look, there's a place where I can do my pickaxe or whatever. And so you're like, oh my god, I have to hit this just right, and then you hit it, and then she like, she has a hold to one arm, and then it does that little like, you got to push the X button fast enough to throw the other pickaxe in, or you fall down.
Right.
I've died a few times, and it's never been frustrating. I've always been like, oh man, holy crap, like you'll walk across a balance beam and then it just shatters, and you're like, what the? And it makes you think on your feet like Laura would have to. So it's really fun.
Yeah, and she seems more competent in this game too. Remember the first game? Remember watching Conan O'Brien play it, but I think everyone experienced this where just there were so many of those events where she could just get dashed to bits on rocks or into propellers or just whatever, just falling and dying instantly all the time. There's still those things now, but I felt like I was better at it. Either the game made it easier or I was just more competent at this point, but it felt like Lara was better at not getting killed by randomly falling than she was in the first game. Yeah,
mechanically and story-wise, like she talks, one of the first people you encounter, is this guy that ends up being in your kind of hang out with him for a while. And he says, he says like, oh, bring me along. She's like, no, I do good on my own. Like the first Lara Croft was not that way. She was like, where's my team? I need them, and stuff. And then she slowly grew. But the title is correct. It's the Rise of the Tomb Raider. You're becoming more confident. There's still times where, she's like legitimately terrified. Right. But they're usually like in combat situations. It's rarely like before when she was climbing like a radio tower, she would like remark about how high it was and how she was afraid or whatnot. And now she's like, oh, whatever, another day is Lara Croft, So it's interesting, not only, thematically how that plays out, both mechanically and in the game.
Yeah, it's nice. One of those. I love it when narrative and mechanics overlap. That's one of the best feelings.
Yes. So I want to talk about something psychologically and how, because the title of this is how game, or I think it's going to be how game environments can make things less fun. Actually, sometimes, and so psychology.
All right,
I'm done.
Good.
There's different ways we parse out things. So, like for example, let's say you're sitting in your living room and someone busts into your house and he's a big dude. And he's like, I'm finna rape you, or whatever he says, right?
Okay, yeah.
Oh, suddenly you're gonna look around for things in a specific way. Like, what would you be looking for? A weapon or an escape?
Right? Yeah.
Fight or flight, yeah. And so you're not gonna notice. Let's say your amiibos, right? You'll actually filter out of those. You'll be looking at the window if it's open, right? You're gonna look at how far it is to the window, and then you're also gonna glance around for anything maybe heavy or sharp or whatever, right?
Yeah, that's our first instinct. Is like, remember in D&D when we were playing your campaign, your horrible death campaign, and you made this huge demon appear in the room, and suddenly the only relevant detail that we cared about, Jimmy asked, where is the demon in relation to the door?
Yeah, that was the greatest. Oh, man, because
we literally filtered out every other detail that you had painstakingly crafted describing the scene, and we're like, no, where is he in relation to the door?
Exit? Yeah, exactly. And so, okay, so lots of things can activate this, right? But also, I think more importantly is this happens all the time. There are plenty of things. I mean, I'm sure anyone who's looked for anything has noticed this. You're like, where are my damn keys or whatever it is? And then you're like, oh, there they are. We don't actually take in everything we look at. We don't filter. We don't.
We've walked by and seen the keys 100 times. We just didn't register that they were there.
Right. So on some effect, whatever we're perceiving is based on the functionality. So this is in psychology. There's two different ways to talk about processing because you can do it both ways. One is top down, another one is bottom up, and that's kind of two large umbrellas, but you get the idea. Top down means like, or let's say bottom up. This is the way a lot of people think that people think. I think intuitively maybe, or is that you look at things, you process everything you look at, and it's just stored somewhere in your memory, right? And we do these things sometimes, like let's say a new house. You walk into a new house, or how about this? This is a better example. Someone walks into your house, they are more likely to do a lot more bottom-up processing. They may notice the cobwebs in the corner that you don't know. They may
notice smell the cat urine that's on the
yeah, or like maybe you have some boxers out and you just didn't know it, but they notice it because they have an advantage to parse out their environment. They have the time, the resources, and the motivation to do it. Those are the big things you need. And but it's very taxing, right? Like they can become distracted and forget. This is the classic reason why people don't remember people's names when they shake their hand. They're taking in a lot of information. So when the person says their name, they're actually looking at the person's face. They're feeling their hand. They're making a judgment.
The name's like the least interesting and relevant piece of data.
Yep. Yeah. And so that's why I always tell people, like, I have a bad memory. I'm like, no, you don't. Your brain works right. That's the point. You're taking in all the social cues you need to take in that first crucial few seconds. Because it's true, there have been plenty of experiments to show first impression is the most important impression.
Such impression.
Super impression. It's and so it's very important to come off warm and accepting, or however you're trying to come off in the very beginning. Name is not important. And it's funny because within seconds of hearing that name, you've lost it because you didn't process it. You didn't elaborate on it and move it into your long-term memory. It just passed through. Okay, so how does this have to do with environments? Well, in general, we do this thing. So the way that we typically, I should talk about typically because we just talked about bottom up, how you can process everything. Well, top down
is the more common.
Yeah, is more common, and the way that you can experimentally manipulate this. So if you want to know how to get someone to do one or the other, look at these the old TVs, how they used to do the white noise, that kind of staticky, and it was like white and black pepper basically looking. Mm-hmm. You can do photographs like that where that would be 100% distortion, and then you can do 0% distortion where there's no fuzziness, right, of a photo, and so you can dial that up or down 50%, let's say 50% distortion, 80% distortion, and we start looking at how people process what they're looking at. And they do bottom up because they're curious. At 100% distortion, they're doing bottom up. They're like, I'm just trying to piece together what this is, right? What I'm looking at. I have no idea. But if you scale back that distortion a little bit, if you suggest to someone or you activate, we call it semantic activation, but you talk about something first, like a gun, or you're talking about video games. Another example is, let me do this less experimentally, cloud watching, right? You look at clouds, the bottom up, you're bottom up, you're kind of looking at it, but then once someone says something to you like, oh, there's a bird, see it over there, then you're doing top down because you have an idea of what a bird looks like in your mind and you're looking to make it fit, right? Which one of these clouds makes that bird fit, right? And that's what you're doing. It's called a functional analysis of your environment, right? That's what you're doing whenever that big guy, the robber's busting in your house. You're like, oh no, you need top down, right? Like I need something that fits my function, and that's all I'm going to parse out for. So this is a long talk to talk about this. Environments. So how do you think that might come into play in video game environments?
The top down, bottom up?
Yeah.
So when you get into a new environment, you're probably doing more bottom up because you're trying to take it in. Like they usually, when you enter a new room in a video game or a new area or a new zone, a lot of games will do a panoramic, just kind of showing you features of what you're about to walk into. Like the camera will kind of scroll around, and I guess that's a bottom up point where you're like, okay, looks like there's mushrooms that are bouncy that I could jump on. There's weird bats flying in the air. I should watch out for those. And you're kind of processing each thing individually. But once you've been in that zone for a while, you start to filter out all the background noise, and you're just looking for your objective. Yeah,
exactly. There's that. And then there's also, so there's a point whenever you start a game, you may be looking at bottom up. Like let's say you start Assassin's Creed. Probably more people have played Assassin's Creed than Lara Croft, so I'm going to use that because there's so many games. Well, when you first get an environment, you're like, whoa, look at this. It's medieval, Europe, or it's, Renaissance France, or whatever it is, right? You're like, oh, this is this area, and you're kind of taking it in. But quickly you're like, oh, look, that's a perch where I need to go to, expand my map. Or over there, oh, it looks like there's a song over there, or shanty that I'm going to go grab. Mm-hmm. You start thinking functionally, and it pulls you out of that bottom-up approach. Mm-hmm. And by stopping and taking it all in, that's a bottom-up approach that you want your characters to do more often. So whenever I get in the game like Assassin's Creed or Lara Croft, there's a point in the game where I'm no longer looking at the environment. I'm just looking at ledges. Mm-hmm. And I see something, and I know how high my character jumps and grabs, and it's right at that perfect height, right? They're all literally, let's say if your character's 5'10", they're literally 6 or 7 foot off the ground or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. All of them, they're all 7 foot. Anything 7 foot you can jump on, and they all look the same. They may have different skins, but the underlying polygons are all exactly the same. It's a perfectly 90-degree angle. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. That would be playing on our the top-down thing, and it's
right. It's like the way where you're looking at trees, and if they're missing the bark underneath a jutting branch, that's something you can jump up onto.
Yeah, and I think something's interesting that people aren't playing with is so in the game Lara Croft, or Tomb Raider, I'm walking across this beam, and I'm like, oh, it's just wide enough that I know Laura can do this, right? But there was an outcropping where I didn't know. I was like, I think she could make this, and it ends up breaking, which is an exciting part, but. That's the thing. I kind of questioned it. But in real life, I was out on the trails a couple days ago, so I'm still playing this game, got it on my mind, and I'm walking across a downed tree, and down below me is just a bunch of water, and I was like, I don't want to fall in that. and I didn't know if I could make it across, right? That moment never hit me in Assassin's Creed. You never think, ooh, can I make this? Am I going to fall? You know what I mean?
Right.
And in some games, they have like a balance mechanic, which, that's fun. That's starting to mess with that. But I think the 90-degree angles for handholds and stuff, let's mess around with that. What if you made it just a regular rock face? You know what I mean? Like a regular, like if you ever gone rock climbing, it doesn't look like that. You just look at something, you're like, I think that's a good handle. Let me test it. And that kind of thing. You can add uncertainty and kind of excitement maybe that way.
Yeah, I think so. Like part of what makes those games fun is not knowing if that ledge is gonna, like Tomb Raider just jumping and saying, "Oh, that looks like it's probably gonna break, but I have no other options." And then it does break, and you're like, "Oh, I knew it! Shit!" Like
Yeah.
That uncertainty does make it more fun than just okay, well, mechanically, here's what I know I can do. Let's try it.
Yeah. I think if you like looked at things and maybe like, okay, here's where I'm going to put my piton or whatever it is you're using to climb, my axe, I'm going to try it here. And then if it breaks, you got to like, push some buttons, and there's some kind of like punishing mechanic. I don't know. And I'm not a game designer here. I'm trying to make it, I'm just trying to mention my specialty of looking at these things through psychology and mentioning how to make it more fun, because it's rewarding if we can do that. Like I mentioned on trail running, where you're picking out your feet. Amy always famously says, "Oh, I feel like a gazelle." That's her kind of joke. And it's true. It's very fun. It's fun to run down a hill and pick your footholds and then be like, wow, dude, I did it. I made it down or up, wherever you're going.
The tricky part as a game designer would be to do that without making it seem arbitrary, because part of the reason that Tomb Raider will have it the way it is, or games have it the way it is because we can learn that we can reliably count on those things, and that because we're not, even with the new generation, we can't make the entire environment interactable yet, right? Like some environments are just going to be blank walls that you can't do anything with because we just don't have the data to make everything something cool. So it's like a shorthand of saying, okay, this is something you can interact with, this is something you can't. We might change the skin, but we always know that this certain outcropping or these certain kinds of trees, reliably that you can jump on them. So while it is exciting to have that uncertainty, I don't know if we have enough power yet to make the environment that realistic without making it seem arbitrary.
I don't know. I mean, I'm not so certain. I think that on the trees here, there's like certain trees you can pick for wood and other trees you can't for some reason for bows. Like there'd be these big old trees. I'm like, why don't I just take that, just break it down, use my little axe here, chop it down, and use that for wood. It takes you out of the game a little bit, out of that survival element, because only certain trees can be used for wood. It feels a little cheap. I'm just saying that I think like if you add some variation and you tried it, and this is already doing it. Like there's one portion where you're running, and I think it's in a mine or something. I can't remember, but you're running at a wall and you jump at it, and there's a ledge that apparently you can land on with your feet. But she lands on it and slips because there's water there. I was like, oh, that's cool. She slips and you catch it with one hand, and I was like, that was cool. That's played on an expectation of mine that oh, look, it's a 90-degree angle. I'm going to land on it and be fine or whatever. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. In real life, there is thrill. There are people who rock climb. There are people who, like me, trail run. There is uncertainty, and 99% of the time I don't break my ankle when I go down a hill, right? Or never have, so 100% of the time so far. But it's still a little bit of thrill. You don't need to make it so the person can fail. Maybe just make it so the person isn't sure that what's going to happen, right? Because the whole point of the fun of that game in particular, one whole point is that there's this uncertainty, or this they really play on that a lot. Like this things break, you find yourself sliding down things a lot, you know what I mean? There's this unsure nature. There's even a part where that helicopter shoots the fuck out of you, unless I was playing poorly, but it shot the shit out of me. I thought I was gonna die. I was like, what the hell? I'm doing everything perfectly, why am I dying? And stuff like that. There'll be sequences you do perfectly and then fail, and you're like, what? And then you land in the water or something, and you're like, oh wow, that sucks. If you feel helpless, you feel like, you know what I mean? Like it's a refreshing feeling, because you're like, I guess this was supposed to happen. Like even if I play perfectly, I lose, right?
Right.
It's cool. I think those are the things that adds in me, in the player, a sense of uncertainty and thrill whenever things do work. It ups the ante, right? Mm-hmm. And when they fail, they've done well so far in not making me feel like I got cheated, Because there's one in particular. You remember the cistern? There's a tomb where there's this holy cistern. It's like a water temple. Do you remember that one?
Yeah. You have to raise and lower the water.
And right when I walked into the tomb, it's literally just a bridge around and a little bit of crawling, but it's essentially straight to the cistern. I was like, there's no way that's gonna be the tomb. There's got to be puzzles. So I start walking trepidatiously, and of course, you make this jump and it breaks underneath you and you fall down to the water. And I was like, well, god damn it. And then I was like, I knew that was going to happen. What? How do I get back up there? And then you don't. Like, you have to figure out the temple to get up there. So that was a good one. They do that stuff quite a bit, and I find myself being you constantly want to keep people on their back heel. The second that someone gets comfortable in your environment and goes, okay, I know, like in an action sequence, you're like, okay, it looks like there's these 3 covers. Cover's always the same size, not in Lara Croft, but in many shooters. And you're like, okay, if I can just get to that cover, I'm fine. There's no uncertainty. But in Lara Croft, there are sections where she can still get shot because it's an uneven surface. And that's thrilling. Like it's playing on all these expectations in your environment that you've maybe gotten used to as a gamer and you can no longer rely on. So I think it's great.
Yeah, no, I agree. That does, and again, I want to go back to the idea of movement being so important to our enjoyment, because I think a lot of what makes that game fun is just planning how we're going to get from point A to point B in the coolest way possible.
Yeah, and then that not being the end game. It's not just like in Assassin's Creed, you go, I know how I'm going to get, let me look. Yep, that's how I get to the top of the church. In this one, you go, okay, I'm just going to go walk over here and grab this cistern. Oh, wait, and then you completely have to redo it, which is fun if it's done sparsely enough. And I don't know. I just think that takes you out of the environment when you see these white ledges that you can grab onto. You're like, oh, okay. Well, it takes the exploration out of it, because the reward of exploration is going, I wonder, and then going, I guess I could, right? Well, that's a millisecond whenever you look around and you see a thing. You're like, I wonder if I can, oh, yeah, look, there's an axe spot. So
yeah, it takes away it pulls back the curtain and kind of takes away the illusion of a big world, and you're like, oh, no, this is just a fancy like path with 2 different branching forks. That's all this is.
Right, exactly. And so I think that this game is starting to play with it, and I found that brilliant. And so I found myself thinking about going, what is it about this? This is cool. This is cool that they lure you into safety or expectations, and then you try something and it doesn't work. And yeah, and it felt a little less gamey. Like there's a couple of the puzzles, like the minecart one, where you end up, I won't spoil it, but there's a clever way of solving it that I actually stumbled on accident. Because you're thinking, gosh, that thing has to be heavy. How am I going to get that thing heavy? I don't know. And so you're thinking about your environment. There's a couple gamification things, like the little places to shoot rope arrows, and that's important to kind of have some clues on how to solve it. But then
that's like, oh wait, gravity's a thing. I could use that to my advantage, and you just start thinking the way you would if you were in that instead of as a gamer. Exactly.
So I found myself being pulled out of the game. The environment didn't suck me into like, a physics puzzle like I did Talos Principle. It was not fun for me. I was like, ugh. Like, you solve a couple, the first few are fun, and then after that you're just like, when you get it, it's not like this cool sense of aha, it's just, I wonder if, and then you move it around and you go, oh yeah, meh, okay, I made a thing glow and I got a piece of puzzle, the thing I got every other time I've solved one of these. So it's, your reinforcement value goes down. So I'm just saying that in this, every puzzle is different, so when you solve it, it's a little different. It's not like you get a puzzle piece at the end, like Talos Principle. In this, it's like, oh, this opened up a new pathway, or, oh, now I can get an upgrade for my senses or whatever. But I think the most brilliant thing is, the puzzles, I don't even call them puzzles. Like, some of them you do, but most of them it's just like, how the fuck do I get that thing to fall, or whatever, right?
Yeah. Like, how do I get around that door, or how do I get past that ice, or whatever? It's just, it's an obstacle, and you're trying to think of a way around it.
Yeah, and they've done pretty well about having different ways to get places too, even within like a temple where it's more railroady. I've many times I'm like, ooh, I'm gonna go. This looks like it's more of the level. I'm gonna go back and check on that other thing, because I bet that was a secret. If this is the way to get through the level, like I do in almost all the video games. But then I go and I was like, oh no, this just spits out right where I was. That's cool. You can, if you like climbing, you go climb. If you like want to slide down this thing, you can slide down this thing. That's cool.
Yeah. Oh, there's a zip line I can make for that. Like, there's different ways to navigate it. But I really hope this becomes a trend in games, both more movement focused games like Overwatch, where half of the fun of different characters is how they navigate the maps, and then environment focused games like Tomb Raider, like combine those 2 elements, like interesting ways to move as well as interesting environments to move through, is to me maybe even more impactful on the fun level. That's my scientific term, fun level.
I like this, impactful.
Impactful on the fun level than like good monster design or interesting boss battles. Like to me, it's less glamorous, it's less sexy, it's less like likely to get a mention in a review or on a in a video game trailer. But just an interesting environment and a cool way to navigate it makes the game so much more fun for me. Than I think that's probably a lot of the reason why the Uncharted series is fun, because you don't have great bosses. It's just guys with machine guns, like pretty much 98% of the time. But the way that you're scrambling behind like statues that explode and like jumping, clinging to the wall and hoping you don't fall off of it, and then swinging around, just the way you navigate the rooms and the way the rooms are falling apart is what makes that game and games like Tomb Raider interesting to me.
Oh yeah, there was, I think it was Uncharted 3 maybe. There's a game, and I think it's Uncharted 3. There's a game where when when the cover you're getting shot at from behind, it starts to break down.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the holes start to come through, and you're like, oh yeah, I guess that would fucking happen. Not everything that's box shaped is bulletproof, right?
Right.
So that's a pretty cool. There's another one that I'm talking about. Like if you can give uncertainty to someone and make them have to do these little, like on the fly scrambles. So in MMA, we call this thing called a scramble, or in wrestling or jiu-jitsu or whatever. It's where, let's say I've got to hold you and I'm holding you down, and then all of a sudden you slip out. There's this moment that both you and I are going to be like, oh shit, I got to get control of that person again, or I got to do whatever, and it's called a scramble. And that is some of the most fun of jiu-jitsu, of MMA or whatever. It's some of the most fun in games too. This moment of, oh shit, everything I thought I knew is gone. I need to remaster this quick, right? And get control of my environment. And so that's what's so fun about this series.
And if you take it one step further, a lot of the games that we've liked not only have those scramble moments, but they also have trained us to look at the environment in ways that you can traverse it differently. Like playing Spider-Man games made me look at the world the way a Spider-Man would look at it, right? Like, oh, that's a flagpole, I could swing from that. Oh, I could jump off of that. Or Dishonored, right? You start looking at the world in terms of places to teleport and then jump off to. Or BioShock Infinite, right? You start looking at the world in different three-dimensional modeling. Like instead of like I can walk across the sidewalk, you're thinking I can swing there, I could slide there, I could teleport there, I could jump there, and just having different options. Like one of the most fun things about Tomb Raider is just when she throws her little climbing axe onto a rope and just shoots down the rope that way, right? Like what are those called? When you what's that maneuver? Yeah. No, when you're going down a rope, like sliding down really fast.
Oh yeah. Wait. Do you mean with her little pickaxe?
Yeah, she's like hanging from it.
Kind of like zip axe, yeah.
Yeah, like a zip line, yeah. So just interesting, not only interesting environment, but interesting ways to look at it and say, okay, well, human David me would just walk from point A to point B. But if I was Nightcrawler, I would teleport there, do a backflip, and land on the ceiling, clinging to the top. And that's something I really enjoy too, when they use the environment not only to change your expectations of how the environment interacts, but how you interact with the environment.
Yeah, that happens in Overwatch with Tracer or with Hanzo. So Tracer has a thing where she can shoot forward a short amount of like a space. It's really bending time, but you get the idea. You basically dash forward, you go out of existence and reappear ahead of you. And that's such a, you're like, okay. When I first played her, I was like, okay, I don't, okay, I guess I can kind of move faster sometimes. Weird. And then I try to play her like another player. But then there's this, as you start figuring out, oh, wait, no, she's just different. You have to use her, like you can, if you jump across a gap and you zip forward, you can actually, it's almost like a double jump, right? Like you can get places other people can't, or you can traverse the map differently than other characters. You don't have to just, there's a main guy that just walks, right? Like Reinhardt, he just walks places. I mean, you can also shoot like jets out and charge someone, but you get the idea. He basically just walks wherever he needs to go. He can't double jump. He can't do anything special. And so I consider that kind of the normal path. That's where most people are going to show up in the middle of the map, right here, right? All these characters. But there's certain characters like Blackwood or Widowmaker, who has a like a little Spidey move where she can pull herself up. And so you have to look at her in other places, right? Like the way that she traverses the map make different routes, different probabilities of where she's going to be, different routes of entry.
Right, so, and the way you think, the way you view the map, because that's a game where you can change characters on the fly, and you start looking at things differently. When you're playing Widowmaker, you're looking for ledges that you could zip up to, and when you're playing like one of the flying characters, you're looking for places that you could fly between that would before your jets run out. Or when you're playing, like it's interesting the way you just view the environment differently depending on how your mode of transportation is.
Yeah, that's the big thing I wanted to talk about in this episode is the fact that our perception, everyone here's perception is reality, right? But it is 100% more, 8,000% more than people think. Because that's a great example. If you're playing, like like someone who throws out a hook and grabs someone, like in Overwatch as a character like that, you're constantly trying to get a line of sight on somebody, right? You want to pull somebody somewhere, so you're positioning your body most of the time subconsciously, at least after some time. Maybe in the initial learning phases it was conscious, but eventually it's subconscious. It's an automatic process. You just kind of do it. The way you play the character is different, and if you're a flanking character, you find yourself at different parts of the map as well. And so and all of this becomes an automatic process, so we don't even think about it. We're just interacting with our environment. And that's why so many, oh man, I watch so many reviews, people reviewing things, even great reviewers, and they're like, it's just fun. I can't figure out why, but this and this, and then they start shooting from the hip, try to determine why a game is fun. And I'm like, that's not why. That's not why it's fun. It's not fun because of the level design. I mean, maybe a little bit of it, but the thing you liked was swinging from the rope. You said that like 4 times, that this mechanic does this, and it's super fun, and you don't know why. And the reason why is because, it's a new...
So it's a novel way of looking at a problem.
Yeah. Think about every time you unlock something in an RPG, an adventure
like
RPG.
a Zelda game, right? Like when you get the hook shot, and then you get the double hook shot, and you start seeing things that you didn't notice before. Or Metroid Prime, right, where you turn to a ball and you can start doing that little thing where you can go up and down those little half pipes, and you start noticing, you're like, oh wait, those little half pipes were all over the game. That's what those were for. And you start noticing them now that you know how to traverse them. But before, they were just weird architectural choices that you again, from your top down kind of way of looking at the game, you would filter that information out, and now you're like, oh wait, half pipes are all over this fucking game. How did I not notice those? Yeah,
exactly. That's a good point. And the way that you play the character and that you approach your environment is different once you have a new tool. And that's part of my point too. But take that to a basal level of just movement, like climbing. You know, you want to shake that up. You don't want it to be, the white ledge every time. I think sure have some of those, especially in like maybe a quick time event where they have to identify something quick and then act on it. You can either slow down the time by doing time dilation. You know how in some games it's like slows down, it lets you look around. Yeah, it does that in this game too occasionally. And I think that was them because they probably play tested and was like, a lot of people are dying here. Let's figure this out. Yeah, give them just a second. So you could do that, or you could make something familiar in the environment, like, oh, white ledge. White ledges almost always mean this. I'm going to shoot for that, or whatever it is that you're trying to do. But the big underlying theme that I wanted to talk about was just this uncertainty, reinserting that uncertainty into even simple things like movement. I just think that's just key. It's what makes characters fun in different shooters like Overwatch or in MOBAs or whatever. You could fly forward.
Uncertainty and variety, because variety will breed more uncertainty, right? As you get more modes of transportation, that's more things to experiment with and more ways to fall or succeed. So I guess the ideal game would have a lot of that Tomb Raider, like that ledge could collapse, that mountain could avalanche onto your face. And also throughout the game, you would unlock different ways of exploring it, be they hook shots or extra upgrades to your pickaxe, or entirely new things like the ability to teleport or the ability to cling to walls or whatever it is.
Yeah, and people get to play with that. It's like it's like introducing almost a new playground because of that new layer of analysis they're using, how they're looking at things. It's kind of changes your old environment up. So anyway, so you don't want too many people falling from the bottom up into the top down. If they do that too long and you keep them shaken up, or you don't shake that up enough, then people are going to get complacent about your game. They're like, oh, it drags on. I don't know why, but it feels like it's too long. Well, that's the reason. That's one of the reasons why.
Yeah, it's being novel.
Novelty, exactly. Variety, novelty, shake it up. However you want to say it. It's that newness, that little extra, that new way to process your environment that now makes it opens that reward center again.
Interesting. Well, that gives me a lot to think about. I'm going to be seeing a lot of the games I'm playing this week through that lens.
Yeah, that'll be cool. Maybe we can have some good conversations. But if you guys haven't checked out Rise of the Tomb Raider, man, you should check it out. These games in general, I was looking forward to it when it came out. I actually just forgot because I had it in my library and I was like, I'm so busy, I get things to do. And man, I keep like setting the controller down and being like, wow, that was awesome. I can't wait to get back to that.
Yeah, I remember that feeling back when I was trying to get you to play this game months ago.
Yeah. But anyway, well, I guess that pretty much wraps up that section, right?
Yeah.
All right. Then, I guess we can move on to the feedback section. All right, gangsters. This is the feedback section where we talk about hanging out with you homies. That's part about getting older. You never know whenever something is ironic anymore or just makes you seem lame. So sometimes I say word or homies or something. Like I say it ironically, and then it used to be funny, and now I'm like, is that still funny? Or is that just, are they like, oh, you're old enough now where I'm not sure. Maybe you mean that. So who knows? Who knows? But what I do know is that we had a little bit of interaction. First of all, a guy named Andrew on Twitter, Twitter handle AMCA1975, said, love number 116 episode, story-driven games on Game Theory Pod with Lene and Russell Glasser. Glad you enjoyed that, man. Hopefully got a new listener out of you. And yeah, keep listening. We have a lot of fun things to offer, I hope.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or the Glassers do. Maybe that was a fluke.
Yeah, probably a fluke. Not much to offer. That's a good point.
So, got an email from Joseph, and he says, hey guys, I just finished writing this, and it's long, sorry. I just finished listening to a great podcast. It's a TED Talk called Press Play. There were a couple of relevant segments, but this one stood out above all. It talks about how playing games, not necessarily video games, although that is the example used, can help us be more empathetic, and he links us to this NPR article about how can playing a game make you more empathetic. Here's a short excerpt from the study to sum it up. In the new study, Mogul and his team compared the reactions of undergrad students to painful stimuli in various scenarios, alone with a friend, with a stranger, between two strangers given a stress-blocking drug, and between two strangers who had spent 15 minutes playing the video game Rock Band prior to testing. Are you familiar with this study?
No, not this particular one.
Okay, so apparently they've got four groups. They've got playing with a friend, playing with a stranger, playing alone, I guess 5 groups. Then 2 strangers given a stress-blocking drug, and then 2 strangers who have spent 15 minutes playing Rock Band, and they're all put through kind of a painful stimuli after that. The student participants were asked to submerge their arm in ice-cold water and rate their pain. Yeah. These pain scores remain the same whether they experience the pain alone or sitting across from a stranger. However, what do you think happened when they put their arms in the water across from a friend?
Well, yeah, they probably had more pain tolerance.
The pain actually increased when the students put their arms in the ice water across from a friend.
Oh, were they looking at each other?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Then yeah, that'll probably increase. If you're triggering that empathetic kind of like if you see one of your friends, like if you see a random stranger get an electric shock, you're kind of like, you're less likely to have a response. But if you see a friend, you do have this galvanized skin response. Your pores open up. It's interesting.
Can we all take a drink when Jeremiah said, when you see a random stranger get electric shock, you say, oh, you don't have much of a response. Like that's an everyday experience for you.
I'm talking about physiological. Like for some reason we're assholes like that. If we don't identify that person as within our tribe, then we're just kind of like, I mean, we're less likely to sweat. There are people who are higher and lower on the scale, of course. But I'm just saying in general.
Yeah, it's the reason the Paris bombings got more press than the bombings in, say, Istanbul or something. It feels closer to your tribe, so we seem to care more.
But that's interesting. If you have a presence of a friend in a stressful situation, typically that mitigates or lowers your response to like an electric shock or something. But I guess if you're looking at them, I would predict it would override that. Yeah. So that's interesting.
And he says basically the stress and resulting lack of empathy was overcome after a mere 15 minutes of playing a game together. In the podcast, they mentioned this game specifically because it isn't competitive. After playing, they again were asked to stick their hands in freezing water together and experienced more pain along the same level as if they'd previously felt with their friends. So basically, they took 2 strangers, had them play 15 minutes of a co-op game, and then they were getting friendship levels of empathy pain together when they went through the ice water thing.
That's awesome.
And he says, I would recommend the entire podcast. There's a section on bonobos and chimps and how they play together. While the adult chimps no longer play, much like human adults, the bonobos continue to play together their whole lives. Playing is part of evolution and leads to greater social cohesion, which is, I think that's true. I think that people are always blown away when they're like, oh, you're friends with people from high school, but you're old as fuck. How are you still friends? And I think a big part of that, the reason that we're still close after however many years that we've known each other is because you, Tim, JT, and I, we all still game together.
Yeah, and it's not just bonobos. It's like rhesus macaques do this. There's a lot of monkeys and apes that end up playing on into their adulthood, and I've made that parallel a lot with humans because I'm like, what, dude, you've got to keep playing. We don't do that because of a weird cultural thing, but it's super important. Whenever they looked at rhesus macaques, Or was it rhesus macaque? It was one of the macaque family. And whenever they looked at them, they found that the males played in the top 80 percentile of their time. The women played less. It was, I can't remember the exact percentage, something like 30s. For some reason, they spent more time. Maybe it's how they define play, because they would also groom each other more, and they'd kind of lay around a lot, which maybe is fun for them. But for the males, they've got...
Maybe they're bad at fun.
Bad and fun, yeah. But maybe they got adrenaline. We've got testosterone. We've got these things where we want to compete. So maybe that's what that was. But they found them playing. It was one of the only water monkeys that plays in the water. But it was playing in the water, swinging off things. They just love to do that. And us being primates as well, classified as primates, then we don't. I mean, we can stifle that. But how about don't? Find something that's fun.
Like culturally, we're supposed to stifle it because it's childish, but the social cohesion rewards, I think, are worth it.
Yeah, fuck that noise. Don't listen to anyone tell you to stop playing. Those are the people that are going to be higher risk of heart attack and, tons of stress-related diseases. But
yeah. And he says another section talks about a woman who suffered a concussion. Her brain didn't heal correctly. She was prescribed a lot of different medications but wasn't getting better. Her thoughts became very suicidal. She talks about how she designed a game called Super Better to play in her head. She recruited her best friend and husband to play with her. They got powers by identifying stimuli that provoked both good and bad reactions in her, designed achievements for her to unlock, etc., etc. She talks about how the resulting dopamine infusion from achievements actually helped her get better.
That girl's a moron, though. She gave a TED talk and she was a moron. She was like, dopamine is released in my brain. And I was like, what? Like she read a book somewhere or like looked at a Wikipedia article. It's that whole dopamine release in my brain thing that I always shit on, because I'm like, well, that's also Parkinson's. So it depends on what pathway, which neurotransmitter is being. It's not like serotonin in general does anything. No one believes that. That's the SRI theory. That's something we're ditching for the BDNF theory. Nobody believes serotonin is in an imbalance. That's stupid. If anyone tells you that, including your physician, tell me he's a moron and go to a real one. Go to a psychiatrist, someone who specializes in this. But yeah, sorry, I could shit on a lot of things on that test, but yeah, that is good that she created her own game and that she got better. There's so much evidence of your brain. So we have these neural pathways. It's neurotrophy is whenever your brain sort of prunes itself, right? You got all these little, think of what pruning is, right? You've got a tree, like a bonsai tree, and if you're sitting there clipping away at things, that's pruning. Your brain does that naturally to kind of conserve energy, I guess, or
be more efficient.
More efficient, yeah. But it also makes more axiom buttons, more dendritic spikes, like these different pathways, and makes new pathways. And that's how we learn, right? That's one of the biological definitions of learning. So we can regrow that shit. Whenever people are like, oh, it's a damaged brain, I'm like, yeah, well, let's see if we can get something moving there. And most of the studies that look at that, something happens. You see something happen there. Like the Wii Fit balance board was used for people with brain damage, and they got better.
They're seeing a lot of preliminary promising results with boxing training for people with Parkinson's. Just that kind of mind-body training.
Well, that's part of the thing. It was like that's why I always tell everyone: exercise through your life, and make sure you're solving puzzles through life. Everybody's starting to figure it out now, like the common public. But we've known this forever. Like if you don't use shit, your brain shuts it down. That's the neural pruning thing. It's like, oh, you're not gonna be using that anymore. No, that's cool. I'm just gonna shut that down. And then even when it's being shut down for other means or other reasons, you can still activate that effect of like learning of neural growth by doing that thing. So I just exercise and have fun, guys. Do puzzles. Think. Yeah. Use your brain.
Play games. Play video games.
Use it or lose it, just like your your muscles.
That the video games were demonized as they rot your brain when we were kids, and now we're finding out that this kind of stuff actually does the opposite of rot your brain. Like
fuck those haters, man.
Effect, like the Talos effect. That's the opposite of rotting your brain. Or Portal 2.
Yep, I know. It's really good for you. So
the study done by the University of Pennsylvania says that the results are more promising than pharmaceuticals. Well, that should be no surprise to anyone who knows anything about pharmaceuticals and the human brain, but apparently most people don't know that.
Well, okay, so there's a fallacy, and I'll just point – I could go on forever, and I won't. I'll just say, 2 sentences maybe? There's a fallacy that people make in their reasoning whenever they hear biology. Okay, so they hear, my brain is broken, right? You've heard shit like that. That drives me fucking bonkers. Not because they're not right. I mean, in a way, that's like saying – oh, my leg muscle's broken. I can't lift 350 pounds on a squat. Well, it's not broken. No, because you haven't been using it in a specific way. It's adjusted for your use, right? Mm-hmm. And so people hear biological basis of a disease like depression. I'm like, well, yeah, that's there because that's what it's supposed to do. But you learned that is something you can unlearn. I mean, our success rate is way better than pharmaceuticals in psychology for curing depression, anxiety, many, many things, OCD. It's yes, there's a biological substrate, right? Just like anything, right?
Yeah.
It's like someone going, oh man, I have a bad heart. I'm going to take heart medicine. I'm always like, or just exercise. You could talk to your doctor
Or,
about.
oh man, my computer crashed. I'm gonna get a new motherboard. It's an electrical problem. Yeah, electricity's part of it, and your motherboard's involved. But there's a software thing you could probably do for that.
Yeah, kind of. Except imagine the hardware changed based on what you did. I mean,
Yeah.
if they were like, oh, this part burned out, I'd be like, okay, well, practice it. Just like people who have surgery or something, or have come out of a coma, may need to learn to walk again. You just got to learn your way out of it. That's the best way to do it. Or you could just take pain pills the rest of your life and slowly die. But fuck, who wants to do that?
You must unlearn what you have learned.
Yeah, don't even get me started about the pharmaceutical company. I won't even start. They've been sued so many times. Just Google pharmaceutical companies sued billions. Google billions of dollars every time they're sued the pants off of, and they go, "Yeah, we were lying about that," and then they just change. They just move on.
They're the lucky strikes. They're the tobacco industry of our day and age. It's crazy.
It's bad. It's really bad. And they're preying on people. And Abilify is detested amongst anyone who's in the ethical boards of anywhere. Abilify, they build themselves as, hey, is your other pills not working? Try another pill. And it's it does basically everything. And it's like, no, it was an antipsychotic. And yeah, it's gonna make you feel a little better because it's gonna slow shit down. But what the hell? I mean, that's literally like going, oh, I don't like how I run slow. I run so slow on track. Oh man, I wish I could. I'll just take a drug to make me feel like I'm running faster. It's like, yeah, you could, but if you value running fast, I mean, you could just practice running fast and get fast. And they're like, no, I just want the phenomenon of feeling fast. And it's like, but you realize you're probably going to stop running as much because your performance already feels faster and you actually get worse. And they're like, yeah, but medicine. I'm like, yeah, sometimes medicine, yeah, but the first line of defense should probably be learning. I know.
Doma, it's easier.
I'll just I better stop. But
okay.
Fuck, that pisses me off.
So he says I can go on and on. Just listen to it. I think it would be interesting to hear you guys talk about this. So yeah, apparently that's a TED Talk, and I'm so off the TED Talk train now. There's so the ratio of good science to bullshit on TED Talks has gotten so skewed. Maybe it's always been that way, and I just never knew enough about science to pick it up. But
no, it was good at first. It's like top researchers, and occasionally still happens. But
it felt like that. But yeah, that's interesting. I would like to read about that rock band thing, just because it's fun to see how empathy can improve through co-op. Like that's essentially what your master's thesis was on, wasn't it?
Yes, and there's quite a lot of literature out there showing that cooperative video games cause cooperation or cause people to be pro-social like this. So this, is a cool new mode to do it. I like that they use the cold presser task, which is what that's called. But it's been shown through a lot of different means already that people who play co-op games like each other more. Go figure. It's kind of like this. Whenever you sit and play with your friends, it's not just you can make new friends. It's not that just because they're your friends you're enjoying yourself. You can make new friends just by gaming with them, which most people know.
Yeah.
Anecdotally, at least. But very cool.
Cool. Well, thanks for the email. That was an interesting diversion, and it's always fun to hear how video games do the opposite of what we were scared into thinking they used to do, like make you antisocial and rot your brain.
Ugh. Yep. There's still old fogey people who say that, and it bugs me.
I know. They should just all be put on a nice cube and drifted away.
It was honestly one of the best things. That's pretty okay. Hey, everyone take a drink because David just said something in the session. But
I wanted to see if it would take you back, and you were like, "Yeah, exactly. Let's keep going."
I'm actually very excited I wrote my master's about just that because people have legitimately told me many times, like, "Oh yeah, but can you prove it?" I'm like, "Yes, I can." Do you have 86 pages worth of time? Because it's fucking 86 pages worth of proof, bitch. We know this shit. I mean, basically, all the new researchers know this shit. It's a little contentious with the old people, but. Go figure. You built your career and wrote a bunch of books for civilians based on, the fact that video games are going to make us murderers. Yeah, egg on your face, dude. You're going to feel pretty shitty if you had to come out and say it was all wrong.
Man, remember the great murder epidemic of the late 2000s?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
All those video games.
Juveniles just going crazy.
Every millennial just shooting everybody, getting headshots because they've been trained for it.
And they literally couldn't tell the difference, that it was a different context. They're like, I don't understand. In games, I get bonuses and level up.
I love the phrase Dr. Ferguson, I think, coined the phantom youth violence, because that's exactly what it is. It's just like, so it's youth violence, so much of it. Did you notice? Can you point it out to me? No, it just feels really like it's happening a lot. It feels that way, but there's no data. It might be a media thing then.
I remember we talked about that cognitive bias. What was oh shit, I'm the worst almost psychologist ever. I can't remember the name of it. Whenever someone says something repeatedly, it's like the false illusion or something. And I mean, there's like hundreds of these biases, but I can't remember this exact one. And it's where just because you hear something more often, people begin thinking it's more true. Just by hearing, not by hearing it's true, not by people just saying like when people share their testimony or whatever in church. It's not like that. That's someone saying this is this and this is true. But just by hearing it, like Ted Cruz is a Zodiac killer, right?
Yeah. No, I've heard that. Yeah.
There are people who probably would be less surprised now if it turned out true. They're like, oh, I kind of knew though. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just knowing it's ridiculous, but hearing it has an effect.
It is known.
Yep, and that's like these people, the youth violence, are like, oh yeah, and you're like, we're actually scientists who measure this shit. Do you want to see?
Yeah.
Look, it's at an all-time low.
You can actually go to the FBI. Like they track violence. We can look at it. There's a graph. You can just see it dropping since the 90s. What else?
Stats.org. It's out there. But yeah, phantom youth violence. Yeah, thanks for the email though. We always appreciate interaction, man.
Yeah.
I think that's it, dude.
All right,
That's all we got.
End of another riveting episode.
Hopefully, yeah.
I think it was when you proposed it literally an hour before we recorded. I was like, environment. That sounds kind of boring, but it's actually really interesting once we started talking about it.
Yeah, it's you brought your pieces into it, and it's got some psychology as well. It's good. Mm-hmm. So, all right. Well, thanks for joining us, dudes and dudettes. I will see you next week on another episode of the Game Theory Podcast.